Yeah, good to go.
All right, Liane, first off, thank you so much. Where are you sitting?
I am sitting in Kirkland, Washington, USA.
Perfect. And just give us a little background on yourself, sort of what was life like pre-Liane Freelance Program Manager?
Freelance program manager, right out of university, I was on the support calls at Microsoft. I got a job, really entry-level job, and talked to all walks of life, trying to get, get more use out of their software and Microsoft products. Then just moved around the company. There were so many different roles all over the company that I took, from worldwide operations to marketing and the garage, different efforts all over the company. But then I had kids and decided I'm going to take a break from the corporate world and stay home with the kids. And that lasted only just a couple months, staying at home with the kids. I missed, working. So I got into the arena of freelancing, just 15 hours a week to start. But that started building. And then I kept getting more and more work. But then after a while, I decided I might just go back to corporate world, because a lot of my friends and family still work there. So then I went back to working full time back at Microsoft.
Awesome. And just a brief overview of what you've done at Microsoft and the program.
Well, I love taking ideas where there's a huge, customer pain point, and figuring out, how we could better, solve the problem for our customers using technology. And the gig economy came about as a great opportunity for, how could we leverage, our technology and our productivity stack to enable more companies to embrace using, freelance talent on their projects. So that really excited me, and just went on a listening journey with a lot of people at Microsoft and even customers outside of Microsoft and in the industry, trying to figure out, could they use freelance in their workflows and getting, projects done, and what would that accomplish for them? And then built a program around that at Microsoft that we tried out. And then we shared our experiences with our customers on the M365 Freelance Toolkit.
Awesome. So why in the world do enterprises, why do they actually hire freelancers? Why don't they just stick with existing contractors, agencies, and their full-time employees?
That is a great question. Well, one thing is that talent is really, really hard to find, especially to physically come into our offices around the world. There's great talent out there that maybe don't, live in our zip code. And so getting that really specialized experience from these really talented, skilled people from all corners of the world is really eye-opening, that you can really reach out and find some really specialized, skilled information workers or digital knowledge workers, etc., that can really, really benefit our projects. So that's why we just tried to figure out how could we better incorporate those, talented experts into the way that we get our project work done. Because sometimes we don't have the skills or experience available on our teams, in our vendor supplier base, or maybe we just need a specialist for a week. And to get maybe a supplier onboarded would take 20 plus days, and it just didn't really make sense. So we looked at a lot of our workloads and thought, there is a real need for freelancers to contribute to that specialized, short projects, even long duration projects where we need to really scale for a longer amount of time. It's just beneficial for us because essentially with, even how we're experiencing COVID and work from home, ourselves as well as other companies are really leaning into, using people that aren't on site. And we're getting better and better at enabling these freelancers to work with us, alongside us, with all the tools and technologies now available and more people comfortable doing it.
Awesome. So I think it'd be super interesting to just hear kind of like a faces of the crowd in terms of like, what are some examples of these freelancers and of these projects? For example, is there a marketing designer that did 5+ years at an agency, or a developer who prior worked at Google, or yeah, what are some of these freelancers and projects that you could just look at and be like, here's an example?
Sure. Great question, because growing up at Microsoft, basically my whole life, I learned how to do a lot of different, types of work on our technologies, but I'm not the best sometimes, so I reached out to kind of like, when I have an idea in my mind, especially with when I do PowerPoint decks, I'm better at sketching out what I like, even just on the back of a napkin. And so one of the stories I guess I have is I had to fill in for somebody at an external, at a conference. And I didn't have any time to prepare, and I didn't have, all the slides needed for me to present in somebody's place that was fell ill right before. So I actually sketched out my slide on just drawing, and then took pictures of the drawing, and then sent it to my go-to kind of bench freelancer for him to look at, and posted it on the platform, the work matching platform. And I had to drive 2 hours to get to the conference. And by the time I got to the conference, the slides were done, and they were amazing, and they were better than actually if I spent all day doing them. And they were done in a matter of a couple hours while I was driving to the conference. So lots of different stories like that, where I sometimes reach out to just different freelancers where I just like their work. Like, I'll look at their portfolio and go, that style, that is amazing. Or I love that newsletter that they had done, or the research report. That's the style and tone and level of detail I wanted. And showing them examples, and just trying them out and picking them. And then it gets to a point where I form relationships almost with these freelancers, who then next time I have a research report, I know how to work with that freelancer, and they, delight me every time. So lots of great stories I have, because there's such a variety of excellent skilled freelancers out there to choose from.
Yeah, I love how you were able to pick out, this is what I'm good at and this is what I'm not good at. And this is what I could do, but in reality, I shouldn't do this. So one thing I think would be super interesting, the raw question is, what do some other full-time employees say about the benefits of freelancing, and what are some of the key words that they're attracted to? Because I think, for context, no one in the world, I don't think, has been as accountable as you are to helping a full-time employee understand why they need freelancing. And I think that's something just for the audience to hear, is you've seen hundreds and potentially thousands of full-time employees, and not only were you saying, hey, this could be cool, but you were directly accountable. So what are some of the things you've heard from the crowd of why full-time employees would want to hire?
Yeah, that was, as you know, like the first part of my role, trying to encourage people to use, freelancers. I got a lot of resistance, because there is pride in doing it yourself. And we hire some amazing employees that they can do. They're very versatile, and they can do great work. And they really struggled with, why would I have somebody else, do part of my job, or, I'm fine doing it myself. But what I've learned from having these employees just try it once was one of my things. Just like, we'll just try it on something small and see how the experience is. Because I know from talking to a lot of these employees that have resistance at first, they, once they tried it once, they're like, oh my gosh, I met this person. They actually taught me something new. Maybe a tip or a trick, or how they laid that video out, or how they, did that animation. I do that, in my job, but I learned a new tip or trick from that freelancer, and kind of got this rapport, and I learned from them. They also, the employees have said other benefits include, sometimes we get unpredicted, spikes in work, or somebody on the team is out or on vacation or whatnot. So they really realize that they can get quick, help, fast, right at their fingertips by using freelancers if they need to. And also it kind of lets them have time to do things or do projects that they're uniquely suited to do, whether it be thought leadership, and they have to do a lot of cross-group collaboration with a bunch of divisions across the company. It gives them more time to do those types of things. And then giving, the project work that might be taking them, more cycles to do, but they could give it to a freelancer and have it get done while they're busy doing maybe other meetings or deep working or collaborating with other groups. So those are some of the other benefits.
Awesome. And so I really want to know indicators for freelancers to know specific people they should be reaching out to. And some context for that, early in my career, sort of driving freelance within companies, we would always look for someone who had jumped every 2 years to a new role, and when adding a role, had verbs listed in their LinkedIn profile. So if they had been at 3 different companies, and whenever they were at a company, they generated, drove, led, something of that matter, we knew, okay, this is someone we should laser in on. But I'm interested in from your vantage point, were there some key indicators, whether it was a type of role, whether it was just maybe even the personality, but was there some key indicators where you would know, there's a higher probability that they'll listen to my message and adopt hiring freelance?
I would say there's many indicators, but the first part of your question, like what I would recommend for people that are looking to get into freelance or grow their freelance businesses is definitely do the networking, and keep your profiles up to date. So yeah, like using those action verbs and delivered and launched and created, those are definite things where the person is doing and actually crafting or creating, are definitely words that I look for as well. And then once you really keep your profile, like action oriented and up to date with your latest, projects that you've done in your portfolio, as an enterprise employee, when I work with other of my colleagues, they get nervous about like, I don't know if I want to hire somebody, I don't know. So that is a thing. So what also I tell freelancers is to get in and start scaling their business or get their first jobs is to use your network and people that are familiar with you as a person and, your character, and just, I would suggest, really making the connections, whether it's your family or a friend or a neighbor or somebody that you met, anywhere, and let them know that you freelance and these are your skills or these are the things that you do, and start building those connections, getting your name out there, your email, if your website, because then it just makes it that much easier if their network needs your skills, and you get that first gig and do a great job, then the word spreads. And I think that really working your network and trying to get yourself out there to people familiar with you at first is a really good first step.
Gotcha. So really, really dive into that existing network and produce those sort of wow outcomes, because the outcomes drive the next projects. And I mean, we kind of know behind the scenes, right? It was never how do I say it? Or it was usually a, hey, Liane, do you have a designer that can help me? And so it's very offline, usually going through other colleagues to meet with other freelancers. So that totally hits on your point of existing network and delivering wow outcomes. So I'd love to just kind of look 10,000 feet at what it requires for an enterprise to hire a freelancer, because I think they're going to be very surprised by how not simple. It's not as simple as, hey, freelancer, can you help me? There's a lot in the background, and I think it's very important for freelancers just to understand the pain that you personally go through and that companies go through to get these incredible results from them. So yeah, I'd love to just kind of have a little 10,000 foot view into what's required to hire a freelancer.
Yeah, so thank you for the acknowledgement of how hard it is, because for large companies, there's a lot of, I guess you would say, governance or policies and operational regulations, et cetera, that we need to comply to be able to get that payment out the door to the freelancer. And when I started out on this journey, I thought, this seems simple. This should be pretty straightforward. But after working with, every flavor of attorney, from worker compliance to, is this IP or not, privacy, customer data. We all know about probably GDPR. If we, do not abide to, global policy, there are some big damages that could be had. So getting, able to create a very effective job post that's compliant per policy, and then being able to price it right to make sure that you pay the appropriate amount, that you're paying fairly, is very important. As well as when you post the jobs, you need to make sure that you're not providing maybe customer data or customer information. So there's a lot of regulation that comes into creating a corporate policy or process, around hiring freelancers. So it is challenging, but we made it happen at Microsoft, and there is a way. We did create this M365 freelance toolkit, which kind of is our best practice of how we launched it. And we're always looking to improve to make sure that, other companies with, policies, procedures, regulations can also engage and use freelancers for their project work.
And what can a freelancer do to help with that? Right? Like, they can acknowledge, I know how much pain it is for you, and I know that it's not as simple as just hiring me and watching me deliver good work, but is there anything that you've noticed freelancers can do to sort of help be the enterprise hiring manager or person posting these jobs?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the best thing to do, especially if you're looking for, getting work from larger companies, sometimes their compliance department asks that freelancer through the work matching platform provide like a 1099 or some kind of tax ID, and proving that you have a book of business or maybe even a website that you have that advertises your freelance skills and experience. All those things are super important to have on hand, because a lot of times the large company will require that the work matching platform validate that what tax-paying country that you're in, get some form of tax ID or business or documentation. So definitely have that set up, and just really set yourself up for success that way, because it will open more doors to doing work with larger companies, because we just have a little bit more probably regulation and policy and process than maybe smaller companies or individuals looking to get freelance help.
Awesome. Okay, last question. What inspires you about working with freelancers?
I really enjoy meeting these amazing people from all over the world. I mean, for me, I just recently, have been working with a few freelancers. One's from Ohio, and one's from California, and one's from the UK, and just, you know, getting connected with them and, you know, understanding like their skills and experience, and they're so passionate about their craft and willing and wanting to help. That is just like really exciting to me, because I am kind of a people person. And then working remote with these people, I get to make new connections that, you know, I'd almost call them like friends. Like I get to know them and their work style. And that's what I really like about working with diverse people from all over the world on my projects.
That's awesome. Okay, 2 lightning questions. Ready? Favorite book?
My favorite book?
Yep.
It's Give Work by Lila Jana, for sure, because it really inspired me that, you know, your geography doesn't necessarily sometimes matter as much as it used to get, you know, paid, you know, work around the world. So great book. Everybody should read it.
Favorite animal?
My favorite animal, I would say it's going to have to be a bear, because, you know, that's my maiden name too. So everybody called me Bear ever since I was a kid. Hey, Bear. So love bears.
Can our freelancers reach out to you in reference of Liane?
They can. That's a nickname from high school. So yes, I go by that name too.
And where can our freelancers find you? Would you like them to connect with you on LinkedIn, or where can they find you?
You bet. So I would say LinkedIn is the best place to reach me. So Liane Scult, and just search me on LinkedIn. Would love to hear from you, and you know, ask me questions, and hopefully I'll have some, you know, answers or advice, or can help in some way.
Awesome. All right. Thank you so much, Liane.
Thank you. Good seeing you, Matt.